Peace and the mercy and blessings of God be with you all. I am your brother in faith, Shabir Ally, with this segment of Let the Quran Speak. As you will notice, our setup is a little different this time. We have been broadcasting for the past 19 years, and for the first time in our history, I am here speaking to you from my home. This new setting was obviously made necessary due to restrictions following the outbreak of COVID-19. We all want to stay safe. I want to stay safe. We want to keep our hosts and our crew safe. And on this show, we want to mirror the sort of physical distancing that we expect that our viewers, you, will be practicing in order for you to remain safe and healthy, and for you to ensure the health also of persons around you. We want to continue to broadcast the message on Let the Quran Speak as we've always done, even with this new setup. We want to continue to broadcast the message of faith, hope, and gratitude. In this short segment, for Let the Quran Speak, I would like to speak about these three subjects with you. Normally, as you know, I would be chatting with the host of the show, and now that I'm sitting alone, I would have to chat with you directly, and that's great. I love that. So let's talk about the three things, faith, hope, and gratitude. How do we maintain faith in a time like this? And why is faith so important? Well, with our faith in God, everything makes sense. Without faith in God, nothing makes sense. If we didn't have faith in God, we would sometimes feel that we're in a universe that is quite cruel, and it looks like there are many powers in the universe competing to wipe out the human race. But with our belief in God, we have the assurance that God is our protector, and God will not let this thing get out of control. It may get worse before it gets better, but we know that God will definitely make sure that it gets better, because He has created us for good purposes, and He has not created us to destroy us. Now, the idea of having faith in God in turbulent times like this is emphasized in the 18th chapter of the Quran in particular, in the story of Moses and his meeting with one who is more knowledgeable than himself. So Moses is referred to in the Arabic language as Musa in the Quran, and when Muslims mention his name, we say peace be upon him, as we do after the names of the great prophets of God. Now, Musa, according to the 18th chapter of the Quran, in the 65th verse, meets with a servant of God who has more knowledge than Moses does. And he asks him, let me travel with you so that I may learn something of that knowledge which God has bestowed upon you. So this person is not named in the Quran, but in Islamic tradition, he's called Khidr. Let's give him that name. It'll make it easier for us to talk about his story. So Khidr says, fine, you can travel with me, but you cannot ask me about anything that I do unless I volunteer to explain it to you first. So they go along on that basis, and eventually they come to a ship. And Khidr scuttles the ship. And Moses asks, why do you ruin this good ship? Well, Khidr says, well, you see, you failed in your promise here. Moses says, okay, don't hold me to it. Let's continue, and I won't ask you about anything again. They continue, and they meet a boy, and Khidr kills the boy. Moses again protests, you have killed an innocent soul. But Khidr says, okay, this is the second time now. This is your last chance. If you ask me about anything more, that will be the parting of the ways. So they travel along, Moses agreeing, he's not going to ask about anything more. They come to a town where the people treat them shabbily and wouldn't give them any hospitality. They find a wall crumbling, and Khidr fixes this dilapidated wall. Moses says, well, you could have at least asked for some wages because they didn't give us any hospitality. Why do it for free? And Khidr says, okay, this is it. If we were to put it in modern language, this is the 3 strikes you're out type of thing. So now I will explain to you what I've been doing. And that, of course, means the parting of the ways. So what is the explanation? Now, you remember the 3 things, and perhaps you know the explanation if you've been reading the Quran a lot, especially the 18th chapter of the Quran. This is recommended reading for Muslims, especially on Fridays. Now, in the 18th chapter of the Quran, in the story of Moses, now Khidr gives the explanation. So you remember the 3 things that we want to talk about? The first one is faith, right? Okay. So faith. In explaining what he was doing, Khidr says, okay, let's think about the ship. All right, so I'm going to put it in this order here. Now, there was a merchant, this ship belonged to some poor sailors. And at the same time, there is a tyrant king who is seizing every good ship. So by ruining this one, at least this one will be bypassed, it won't be seized, and eventually the poor sailors can fix their ship, and at least they'll have a ship, one that they can mend and keep, rather than have no ship. So you can see the wisdom of that. And you see here that Khidr is acting on knowledge that is bestowed upon him by God. It's not the sort of knowledge that is available to us human beings. Because we don't have this kind of knowledge, we can't go ruining anybody else's ship. But Khidr could have done that because he's acting on special inspiration from God that we don't have. As for that wall, okay, the people treated them shabbily, but that wall stood over some buried treasure that belonged to a couple of youths in the town, and their father was a righteous person who left this for them. So by putting the wall back in its place, the treasure is left secure so that the youth will eventually grow up and they will be able to recover the buried treasure that their father left for them. So that explains again the action of Khidr, acting upon knowledge which the rest of us would know because it's about something hidden there in the soil. Okay, I left the one about the boy for the last because this one requires some interpretation. It requires a bit more of explanation. But I can't get into all of the details now. That would perhaps be better treated on a separate occasion. But let me for the moment say that Khidr explains that this boy belonged to believing parents, and it is feared that this boy will become oppressive towards his parents, and to spare them that trouble, God intends to replace this boy with one who will be more kind towards his parents. So you see here then that Khidr is acting on knowledge which is bestowed upon him. And these 3 incidents go to show that when things appear to us to be bad and terrible, we don't know the whole story. There could be something happening in the background. There's something that is known to God, and he understands his purposes and why he does what he does. Sometimes we can see some of the wisdom of what he does, but often we don't see that wisdom. But we have to surrender ourselves to God, and we have to put our trust in God, knowing that He is doing things that are best and most wise. And though we can't see it at the moment, that is our faith. So having faith in the face of this outbreak of the coronavirus helps us to keep going, because rather than becoming depressed and thinking that it looks like the human race is going to be wiped out here, this is so terrible, what's going to happen? We don't have to panic. We need to take precautions to be sure, but at the same time, we need to put our faith in God. So how can we maintain faith in this difficult circumstance? One way is by reading the Quran, because by reading the Quran we come across the story of Moses, for example, but there are many other instances in the Quran where God assures us of his hikmah, his wisdom, and his doing things in the best way possible so that human beings will be protected, will be taken care of. After all, he is referred to as Rabbul Alameen. Rabb means one who takes care of others, and that is translated into English as Lord of the worlds. Okay, so much then for that first item. That was the faith, right? So what was the second thing I wanted to chat with you about, if you remember? That was hope. Okay, so let's turn to hope. Can we have hope in a circumstance like this? Again, if there was no God, what would we put our hope in? We'd probably have to put our hope in humanity alone. And it's good to hope in humanity and the best that human beings can do. But at the same time, humanity is the target of this virus. So can we hope that humanity by itself will be able to overcome this? Well, one might hope. But if we put our hope in God, then we are putting our hope in a greater power, one who is not affected by the virus and one who can control and wipe out the virus from the face of our planet. And so by putting our faith in, our hope in God, we can have the reasonable assurance that we will get over this. It may become worse before it gets better, but it will certainly become better. And the Quran tells us, وَمَا يَقْنُتْ مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ إِلَّا الْقَوْمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. Who is going to, or قَوْمُ دَالُونَ, who is going to lose hope in the mercy of God except those who are gone astray, or those who are disbelieving people. We are not disbelieving people, neither you nor me. So let us put our hope in God, knowing that God will protect us, God will bring about a better future for us, and we will overcome this. So let's now talk about the third item. So far I talked about what? The faith, and I talked about the hope. Okay, so the third thing I wanted to chat with you about is gratitude. So let's talk about gratitude. Gratitude means obviously giving thanks, and in our context, who are we going to give thanks to? Well, we're going to give thanks to God, and that does not exclude giving thanks to people around us, because there's so many people who do good things for us. We should give them thanks as well. But often people forget to give thanks to God because God is unseen to us, and we forget about God. But let's give thanks to God. Okay, so what are we going to give thanks to God for in this situation when it looks like devastation is all around us? What is there to thank God for? Well, many things. When we look at the problems around us, if we stare at that too much, well, then that's the only thing that becomes highlighted before us. But if we look around more broadly, we will see that we have many things to thank God for. We have life. We have food. If we're locked up at home, we still have food. Maybe there's milk in the fridge. Maybe there's food in the pantry. We are often surrounded by good family members. We have friends that we can connect with via social media and on the internet. So for all of these things, we have to be thankful to our Creator, our Sustainer, our Fashioner, the Fashioner and Designer of the heavens and the earth. So let us continue to give thanks. This is a good time for us to draw up a gratitude list, a list of things that we can be thankful to God for. So let us not forget to be thankful and to be grateful in this time of great crisis. So to recap then, I was chatting with you about three items. Remember what they are: faith, hope, and gratitude. Now, there's something else I want to say about hope before I end this short segment, and we're going to end this now very quickly. Hope. Returning to hope for the moment, there is something that is very important here. What happens to us after we die? If there is no God in the picture, then there is no hope. There is no life hereafter. But once we believe in God, the Quran promises us that there is a life hereafter, and the Quran insists upon that. Those who believe in God and those who believe in the life hereafter. These are the primary descriptions of the believers. So believing in the life hereafter, what does that mean for us? It means that death is not final. It means that after this life, there is another life. And while people are justifiably afraid to die, we all are, that's our natural instinct for survival and for personal protection. So while we are afraid of death, at the same time, we can have hope in God that He will resurrect us into another life after this life. And that resurrection leads to an everlasting life in the life hereafter with God. Now, those who pass away in a plague, according to Islamic tradition, they pass away as martyrs, as shuhada, to use the Arabic terminology, and this is a coveted death. It is a noble death. It is not something that we go around hoping for. We don't hope to die. We hope to live, and to live for God, so we can serve God and serve humanity, and by so doing, serve God indirectly. So we want to continue with life so we can continue doing all of the good things. But if death comes, do we despair? No. If our loved one passes away in this crisis, we can hope that God is taking them as shuhada, as martyrs. They're giving them that noble and coveted death, so that in the life hereafter, they will have much good coming to them as a reward and as a compensation for the fact that God took them in such a terrible tragedy. So our hope then, again, helps us to cope with grief and to overcome despair and depression in this difficult time. So let us put the three things together, my dear listeners and viewers, as we chatted about the faith, hope, and gratitude. Let's put the three things together: faith, hope, and gratitude. Let us live by these principles. Until next time. I will join you again before long for another segment here on Let the Quran Speak. In the meantime, while we're practicing physical distancing, let us not forget to connect socially. Connect with us on social media and wherever you will view Let the Quran Speak, here on television as well. I'm your brother in faith, Shabir Ally, for Let the Quran Speak. Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you, and the mercy and blessings of God.